Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Beasley Allen webinar, Does Acetaminophen Cause Autism and ADHD? My name is David Byrne, and it's my pleasure to introduce our two speakers for this very important litigation topic. Today, my partner Roger Smith, along with Mary Cam Raybon, will address the scientific links between acetaminophen exposure and autism and ADHD. Roger and Mary Cam will also discuss the growing litigation involving these acetaminophen products. While we're waiting on the last of our registrants to join us, let's take a few moments and meet our two speakers. First, my friend and partner Roger Smith is a longtime leader in Beasley Allen's Mass Torts Section. Since joining the firm in 2001, Roger has dedicated all of his time to complex litigation involving pharmaceutical products and medical devices. Among other things, Roger served on the teams that negotiated the $4.85 billion Vioxx settlement, as well as the $2.4 billion Actos Global settlement. He's also served as lead attorney in numerous cases that resulted in multi-million-dollar settlements for our clients who had claims ranging from and related to Resolin, Serzone, ephedra, PPA, herbal supplements, gadolinium, yasmine, and fleet phosphosoda. Of course, over the past 2 decades, Roger has also served on numerous MDL committees, subcommittees, and an MDL plaintiff steering committee. Roger is a remarkable legal and scientific scholar, and we are so delighted to have him on our team. My colleague Mary Cam Raybon is also an attorney in Beasley Allen's Mass Torts Section. Over the past several years, Mary Cam has actively worked on high viscosity bone cement cases, as well as claims involving defective dietary supplements and weight loss drugs, such as Belviq. Mary Cam graduated cum laude from Huntington College and received her Juris Doctor from Samford University. Mary Cam is a tireless advocate for our clients, and I'm so delighted to have her join us today. Now, before I turn the program over to our two speakers, I need to go over just a few housekeeping notes. First, today's webinar has been approved by the Alabama and Georgia State Bars for 1 hour of CLE credit. In order for you to receive full credit for attending, you've got to stay on for the duration of the program. A link to today's presentation was included in the Zoom confirmation email you should have received when you registered. But by the end of this week, you'll receive another email with a certificate of attendance and an updated presentation and video link. You can email your completed evaluation form to webinars@beasleyallen.com. Keep in mind, this webinar is being recorded. For those Alabama and Georgia attorneys who are participating by phone today, it's very important that you email your name, phone number, and state bar ID number to webinars@beasleyallen.com to ensure that you receive full CLE credit. Also, be sure to check out the events page of our website, beasleyallen.com/events. We're going to be adding more webinars throughout the year, and for anyone needing ethics credit, we're offering an ethics webinar in November. I also want to encourage each of you to go ahead and register for our follow-up Camp Lejeune webinar, which is scheduled for next week on Tuesday, September 27th at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. Finally, if you have questions during today's webinar, I want to encourage you to use the question and answer feature located at the bottom of your screen. We're going to set aside time at the end of today's program to try and tackle all of the questions submitted by our viewers through that Q&A function. So with that, Roger, Mary Cam, let's get started.
Hey, thank you, David, for that fantastic introduction. Good morning, everyone, or maybe it's good afternoon. We have about 300 people attending today, which is fantastic. We appreciate all of you for calling in and listening. We do have a lot to cover, which means that I'm going to be addressing a lot of points pretty quickly. I want to apologize in advance for that because it is a lot to cover. When we started looking into a potential case linking acetaminophen and autism, one of the things that struck me was the sheer magnitude of the increase in diagnoses of autism and ADHD over the past 30 or 40 years. Let me give you some numbers. Several decades ago, 1 in 1,000 children were diagnosed with autism in the United States. In 2009, 1 in 100 children were diagnosed with autism in the United States. Between 1991 and 2001, the rate of autistic children in public schools increased by 1,700%. And there was actually a 2017 article in Scientific American that stated that it was 1 in 68 children in the US that have autism. And many believe that the numbers that are being circulated now are conservative. But these statistics are astounding. Scientists are calling it an epidemic. So it begs the question, are doctors more aware now of autism and ADHD, which is actually leading to more diagnoses? Are there better diagnostic tools? There was actually a study back in 2009 that answered that. The study showed that only a quarter of the increase in autism and ADHD diagnoses could be attributed to better diagnostic testing and physician awareness. So what else is it? Is it an environmental factor causing the epidemic? During the presentation today, our hope is that we will be able to show you the growing body of evidence that links autism and ADHD to prenatal exposure to acetaminophen. And despite this body of evidence which has been accumulating for a long time, there is absolutely no warning on acetaminophen containing products, which would alert a pregnant woman to the risks of prenatal acetaminophen exposure. What if the manufacturers had a statement in their product warnings that said acetaminophen use during pregnancy can alter fetal development and cause autism, ADHD, and other conditions? Don't you think women would heed that warning? It really doesn't take a lot of words to do the right thing here. So the question we have is, can we unlock the mystery behind autism? Scientists believe that autism is the result of multiple factors, and that includes certain environmental agents having a negative impact on genes and gene products. Now, there are a bunch of environmental factors that have been associated with increased rates of autism. There are certain pesticides, certain chemicals, heavy metals, other pollutants. But one of the puzzling aspects of autism in the US is the marked increase in the incidence of autism that began in the 1980s. Was there some type of toxic avalanche of chemicals or heavy metals or pollutants in the US in the early 80s that has continued today? I don't think so. In fact, I think that the increased knowledge about many of these potential exposures has led to a marked reduction in the potential for exposure. We don't use leaded gas anymore. We don't use DDT. Acetaminophen use, however, did increase in the early 80s. But is it possible that acetaminophen can induce disturbances in genes? Is there evidence that acetaminophen can cause damage to the developing brain?